The mighty monarch of ghouls himself, King Boo. The Boo people are the resident ghosts that live within Mario's universe, and this guy is their ruler, a title that he's more than enough earned due to his raw power over the supernatural. Not much is known about this tyrannical specter, but he first appeared after he learned that the scientist known as Professor Elvin Gadd started trapping his fellow ghosts into portraits. And after amassing an army of now freed ghosts, decided to take this opportunity to extract revenge on the Mario Brothers for all the Boos that they defeated in the past. He was successful in capturing Mario, but ultimately succumbed to Luigi, who was assisted by Egad to trap the Ghost King into a portrait of his very own. Unfortunately, the professor isn't the brightest scientist out there, and allowed King Boo to escape when he sold his portrait in a garage sale. And since then, King Boo's always found a way to come back to haunt all those within his gaze. Or, just to hang out and play sports and kart racing. Gotta have that downtime, I guess. Regardless, King Boo is a major threat, and he'll be coming to the What If Smash roster with his supernatural powers as a Boo, as well as his powerfully enhanced crown. Still getting right into things, King Boo would be a fairly heavy character, but he'd also be rather floaty as well. He'd have 2 jumps, and no additional movement options. King Boo could have a 2-hit jab that could lead into a rapid jab, with the first 2 hits being simple little horizontal slaps forwards from each of its stubby little hands one at a time. This attack references the little move in the game Mario and Luigi Paper Jam when he was smacking Paper Mario around. And for the rapid jab, this would have King Boo summon a large amount of smaller Boos from his own body that tackle forwards, then disappear at the apex of their thrust. This mostly references how King Boo is the king of Boos, so he would be using their powers as well for his disposal. His dash attack can have him do 2 quick rolls forwards, turning his whole body into a hitbox. This attack comes from Luigi's Mansion 2 when King Boo chases Luigi down the long haunted hallways. For his tilt attacks, these can all reference new attacks that King Boo tries to use on poor Luigi in Luigi's Mansion 3. The side tilt can have King Boo do a quick front flip, then slam his extending tongue on the ground forward from high to low. The up tilt can have him twirl his tongue above himself, which would knock those away on contact. This references when he used his tongue as a makeshift jump rope to try to hurt Luigi. And the down tilt can have King Boo swing his tongue horizontally across the ground. This would be a tilt that has a chance to trip foes. For his side smash, this could make reference to one of the most iconic things about the Boo kind. While he charges the smash, he'd turn around, hide his face, and become slightly transparent. But when the smash is released, he'll quickly scream forwards to literally scare the life out of anyone right in front of him as he does. And as a unique bonus, this would be a smash that deals double damage if it hits a foe from behind. Overall referencing how Boos will hide themselves when looked at, but when their prey turns around, then they swoop in for the kill. For the up smash, this can reference a power that only King Boo has thanks to his crown, powered by a mysterious purple gem to make King Boo's hauntings all the more frightening. It can have him call down a powerful purple lightning bolt that strikes his crown, causing King Boo's own body to be electrified in an almost unsettling way. This lightning bolt has great vertical reach, but it's pretty poor horizontally. But that's where the king comes in, as foes who are too close to King Boo's body while he's getting shocked will take damage from that as well. The bolt is near instantaneous with very little start lag, and launches foes immediately on contact, whereas King Boo's body deals small flinching damage to foes too close before being launched with the final hit. The main downside to this up smash is the end lag, as while King Boo doesn't take damage from this, he will be staggered for a little bit, and his electrocuted body doesn't have a whole lot of range, so he can still be punished until the electricity wears off. This attack overall, I feel properly represents King Boo's cunning yet reckless nature, as he is pretty calculated, but he also tends to use strategies that could very well end up to his downfall. I don't think he cares too much though. After all, ghosts don't die. Anyways, for his down smash, this can have him quickly float up, but then smash his body into the ground. When he does this, it causes the ground around him to warp, creating a shockwave that extends outwards to hurt foes on both sides of the king. When he leaps up before coming down, this does shift his hurt box upwards, so it can allow him to avoid lower attacks as well. This is an attack that comes from both Luigi's Mansion 2 and 3. For his neutral air, King Boo can summon a bunch of smaller boos that all encircle their king. These spinning boos deal multi-hitting damage before launching with the final hit, with that final hit being the small boos all poofing away all at once. This attack references the Boo Buddies, a formation that the boos can take as an obstacle for the Mario Bros to get past in their various games. King Boo's forward air could be a simple lick from his tongue forwards from high to low. I wonder how many licks it would take to get to the center. A question we can also ask for his back air, as it'll have King Boo quickly do a horizontal spin while swinging his tongue backwards to strike those behind him. This attack mostly comes from his animation in Super Mario Sunshine when he activates the slot machine. His up air can have him cause a fiery explosion to erupt from his crown to deal big damage to any poor soul directly above the king. While not exactly the same, this idea comes from the fireball attack that King Boo can shoot from his crown in Luigi's Mansion 3. And for his down air, it can have him light his tongue ablaze, then swing it below himself multiple times left and right to strike any foe below him. This references his boss fight in Sunshine, specifically when he's fed a hot pepper. Jeez, what is that, a ghost pepper? Pfft, what a weenie. To grab his victims, King Boo can use psychokinesis, just like we see him able to use in the Luigi's Mansion games. So as such, it'll be a slightly long-range disjointed grab. And to pummel, he'll literally taste their fear as he licks them with that grotesque tongue of his. But even worse than that, for his forward throw, King Boo will just slurp you up entirely and then spit you back out forwards. And even worse than that, for his back throw, he'll distort reality as he makes the very ground you're standing on slurp you up, and then spit you back out behind the king. But then not as badly. For his up throw, a bunch of little boos will appear, carry the foe high into the air, and then slam them straight into the ground, bouncing the foe back into the air. And for the down throw, he'll use the powers of his crown to make a portrait materialize, suck the foe into the portrait, and then slam the portrait into the ground, shattering it. This does release the foe, but it also hurts them as they're bounced away. For King Boo's neutral special, he'll begin to really call from the beyond as he starts spitting out the ghastly flames known as wisps. Tapping the button will have King Boo shoot a fireball out of his mouth straight forwards horizontally that keeps going on until it goes off screen or collides with something. These wisp projectiles are semi-slow moving and not very strong either, dealing small flinching damage at most if they do hit a foe, so these are really more like a variation of Luigi's neutral special coincidentally enough. Here's the big difference though. He'll only shoot the wisps if you tap the button or if there's no other wisps currently on screen. If you hold the button down after shooting some wisps, it'll make King Boo start to inhale. When he begins to inhale, any wisps in front of King Boo's Y-axis will be pulled back to King Boo's mouth. This can allow for a couple of mix-ups to throw your opponent off guard, or even some edge-guarding purposes if you don't quite trust your accuracy. But there are some downsides to this. Unlike Kirby, King Dedede, or even King K. Rool, King Boo inhaling will not suck up foes. However, like the prior mention, he can't move while inhaling. You can't stop the inhaling at any time simply by letting go of the special button, though if you do this while wisps are heading back to you, they will just disappear as soon as the inhaling stops. King Boo is in general fairly vulnerable while inhaling since he can't move, and while you can stop it whenever you want, there is a bit of end lag when he does stop. And finally, while he can't inhale foes like his fellow round kings, projectiles and items can still be shot into his mouth, and this happening will interrupt his inhale, and if an explosive item is thrown into his mouth, he obviously takes damage when it explodes in his belly. This is a rather risky move to use, yes, but if utilized properly, it can be very overwhelming to your opponent, as there's really no limit to how many wisps that can be shot, and their rate of fire is kind of fast. So proper placement and spacing will be what's ideal for this attack to really put on the pressure. Now for King Boo's side special, this will have him use one of his favorite toys that he loves to throw around, so much so that he used them in all 3 Luigi's Mansion games. Even though they did lead to his ultimate defeat each and every time. Whatever. It's the spike balls! Seriously though, why does he keep using these things? They've literally all what led to Luigi beating him on every occasion. Oh well. Using side special will have King Boo roll a single spike ball forwards. It's affected by gravity, and it rolls a fair distance before eventually slowing down, and when it comes to a complete stop, it'll disappear. If it does collide into something, physics will step in as it's bounced into the other direction before eventually slowing down. Now if you choose to throw one of these while airborne, this of course will make the spike ball bounce a bit. But if it's thrown from a high enough distance, the spike ball will actually break open upon colliding with the ground, and when it does, a few small bombs come out of it. These bombs are also gravity affected, and they can be picked up, thrown, or even pushed around. As bombs do, they'll explode soon after coming out. It takes about 3 seconds for them to do so, but they can explode sooner if they're attacked. Another move that can be used for pressuring your opponents as well as mixing them up. But true to its origins, it could very well lead to King Boo's downfall, especially if he happens to be inhaling. So take my advice, try to avoid inhaling right after using this, and best play smarter when fighting against reflector characters overall. Next for King Boo's up special, it's a teleport. Yeah, I know, despite me not liking just basic teleports, I felt that this is what best suits King Boo. Especially considering that teleporting by vanishing in a puff of smoke is just something that Boos are well known for doing. However, I'd like to make it a lot more interesting than just your run-of-the-mill teleport. How's about we make it much more spooky? To allow for even more mix-up options as well, let's give King Boo an extra option when he phases out. Just tapping the button when activating the up special will just be the teleport. It travels a fair distance, but deals no damage, and he goes into freefall afterwards. But if you hold down the special button for a bit instead after activating the special, when King Boo teleports, he'll leave a duplicate of himself in the spot that he phased from. This duplicate will remain in that spot for 5 seconds before vanishing. It won't do anything aside from a demeaning taunting animation to mess with the opponents, but if it's hit by an attack that isn't from King Boo itself, then that duplicate will explode. That's right, not only is it a teleport, but it's also a counter. Double degenerate! This explosion is powerful, so powerful in fact that it'll also hurt King Boo if he's too close to it, which really shouldn't be a problem too much of the time since he should be a fair distance away from it right after teleporting. Even if the duplicate is attacked literally right after being made, King Boo should always be safe so long as his teleport wasn't cut short. That said, there is one more option for this special. When you hold down the button after activating up special, but then never let it go, then King Boo won't actually go anywhere. Instead, he'll just hover in place and do a quick chuckle for a second. This allows for yet another mix-up option on your opponent, since canceling the teleport like this will not put King Boo into freefall, so you'll be able to phase out or even attack right afterwards. You can do this if you suspect that your opponent suspects for you to teleport and tries to read your teleport, but instead you fake him out and catch him off guard, giving King Boo the upper hand. And finally, for King Boo's down special, this will allow him to start a poltergeist. Only makes sense for the very king of ghosts to be able to do so. For those who don't know what a poltergeist is, it's when spirits possess everyday objects to make them do weird things. Most commonly, make them move or even float. The type of poltergeist that King Boo will do will act as a makeshift reflect. Using down special will have him do a quick stance, and if any projectile makes contact with him while in this stance, he'll catch it with his ghostly psychokinesis and then send it straight back at 1.5 times the amount of damage. However, just like with the rest of his specials that this kingly trickster has, there are some mix-up options at his disposal. King Boo will only automatically reflect the caught projectiles if you let go of the button immediately after activating down special. But if you continue to hold it down instead, When King Boo catches the projectiles thrown at him, he'll hold on to them, and will only throw them back as soon as the special button is let go. While he sits there holding the caught projectiles, he can't move from his spot, but he can turn around to throw the caught projectiles into the other direction, just in case the foe attempts to get behind him. Also, while he sits there in this state, he becomes completely immune to all projectiles, as if a foe attempts to shoot more at him, he'll just catch those as well, and can keep catching as many projectiles as he pleases so long as the button continues to be held down. Though he can only hold 5 at a time, and if he catches a 6th one, then the oldest projectile will just disappear. But regardless, any foe stupid enough to just keep giving King Boo ammunition will only be spelling out their own death wish. So needless to say, your best option to avoid this is to try to get above King Boo to attack, and if King Boo is hit while in this state, he'll just drop everything. But with that said, while being able to hold onto the object is a great mix-up option to keep your opponents guessing, if you don't catch a projectile while holding the button down in hopes of catching and holding them, then the end lag that King Boo suffers will be a bit longer than usual. And King Boo can only enter this projectile immune state if he actually manages to catch a projectile initially. Using it willy-nilly at the wrong time will just lead to you getting punished. So it is still risk and reward, though really, that's just the best way to describe King Boo's moveset as a whole. As I said earlier, he's cunning, but reckless, with not a whole lot of need for self-preservation. I mean, there's not really much to preserve after all, he's already dead. He's a trickster through and through, and with a moveset like this, you can keep your opponents on their toes and guessing at all times. And if they fall for his tricks, then they'll be in for the biggest scare of a lifetime, which would no doubt soon turn into an afterlife time. For King Boo's final smash, he reminds everybody why he is the king of the boos. This will be a semi-close range final smash. Thousands of smaller boos will show up from all directions and center themselves around King Boo, quickly making him bigger. If there's any foe too close to the boos as they close in on King Boo, they'll end up getting trapped in place by some boos who hold them there, while at the same time the other boos rack up damage on the caught foes. Once King Boo reaches his maximum size, he disappears, only to then immediately slam from high up into the spot where he disappeared from, dealing large damage and knockback to anybody hit by his body, while exploding into the thousands of boos upon impact. Foes who were held in place by the smaller boos of course take most of the blow, but since King Boo is so large, there can be collateral damage if anybody else were too close. That said, when you activate this final smash, it'll play regardless of whether or not anybody is close, so you best be close to others before you activate it. Otherwise, it'll just miss. There's been a ton of different kinds of boos over the course of the Mario games, so making alternate colors for King Boo was no problem at all. That said, his default will have him in his creepy design from Luigi's Mansion. And while it may not be his most used design, it was his first, and it is definitely his coolest in my opinion. As for his most used design, that can be an alternate costume, sporting the much simpler, more traditional Boo attire. The first new color for the Luigi's Mansion design can make him green, in reference to Lady Bo from Paper Mario. The first thought for the more common design can make him pink, in reference to the confusingly named Red Boos, introduced in Mario Party 2 after the White Boo started to become its own character. Though even before that, there were also the pink-blue blocks, introduced in Super Mario Sunshine, so that can be another inspiration for this color. Next for the spookier design can be a purple color with yellow eyes, referencing the Dark Boos from Paper Mario and the Thousand-Year Door. Next for the simpler design can be a simple gold color, referencing the Gold Boos from New Super Mario Bros. 2. The final alternate color for the Luigi's Mansion design can make it pure black with yellow eyes, referencing the Bomb Boos from Super Mario Galaxy. And the last color overall can be a simple teal color, referencing Pika and Lala from Paper Mario and the Thousand-Year Door. King Boo's stage intro will simply have him appear on stage in a puff of smoke while doing his iconic laugh. For taunts, his first can have him laughing hard towards the screen, like he's laughing at the players themselves, something he does in quite a few games actually. His second can have some smaller boos appear around King Boo while he spins in place, and the smaller boos will begin to play Ring Around the Rosie with him, referencing the boos in Luigi's Mansion before they form Boolossus. And thinking about it in context, it's actually really morbid that the boos like to play Ring Around the Rosie. To understand why, look up the origin of the song, then you'll understand. But for his final taunt, it'll have King Boo give a really mean scowl before doing a sinister little chuckle, overall referencing King Boo in Luigi's Mansion 3 and how especially bitter he was towards Luigi in that game. I mean, he already held 2 L's against the guy who literally has an L on his forehead. I'd probably be a little salty too. Anyways, finally, for the victory animations, the first can show him flying and dancing around the screen while a bunch of other Boos do the same, celebrating their king's victory. This mostly references the Boo's victory animations that we see in the various Mario sports titles. His second can have King Boo turned away with very little visibility, until he suddenly faces the camera and screams to scare everybody, then laughs afterwards. And his final can show King Boo just floating there chuckling, as a bunch of portraits just ominously float around him, highly suggesting that he just trapped his defeated foes inside of the portraits to add to his own personal art gallery. This references the bad ending of Luigi's Mansion 3, where that was a game over for Luigi, but it was very much a victory for the Baron of the Boos. And that does it for What If King Boo Was in Smash! Ever since Piranha Plant was put into Smash, many people have been clamoring for many of the other different species of enemy monsters to be put in as well. And from what I've seen, King Boo definitely seems to be high up on that list. I mean, I know why though. Just like the Piranha Plants, the Boos are just as iconic. And when you're the king of such an iconic species of specters, it's only right that you'd be front and center to give any foe you face a scare that they'll not soon ever forget. Anyways, if you liked what you saw and would like to see even more characters being given possible Smash movesets, be sure to subscribe. And if you'd like to support the show and help me be able to make more content for you guys while you also get some perks for doing so, you can click the join button either below the video or my main page to become a sponsor for my channel. I'd really appreciate anything that can be contributed. And of course, if you have a character that you'd like to see be given a possible Smash moveset, leave a comment down below or contact me on Twitter at BrawlFan1 on Twit. I hope you all enjoyed and thank you so much for watching!
They're actually pretty good, not even gonna lie.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm. Wanna try one?
No. No.